30 days ago, my life wasn't a mess. It was untrained. And there is a very specific difference between those two things. A mess needs a big change. Untrained just needs 12 small habits, done daily, that I genuinely never questioned until I actually tried them one by one. 12 habits. None of them took more than a few minutes. None of them cost me anything. And by the end of 30 days, I wasn't just tidier or calmer, something had actually shifted in how the whole day felt, in a way I did not expect from habits this small. Stay with me until number 12, because that's the one habit that explains why all 11 of the others actually stuck this time, when every other 30-day challenge I've ever tried quietly died around day 9. But first, number 7 is the one I need to tell you about right now, because it's the habit I was most sure would do nothing, and it's the one that ended up changing the most. Not what I expected going in. Let's begin. Here's where I was 30 days ago. Not in crisis, just quietly worn down by a version of daily life that had never been designed on purpose, mornings I stumbled through, evenings that dissolved into scrolling, a house that always felt slightly behind no matter how often I cleaned it. I didn't need a total life overhaul. I just didn't know that yet. What changed my mind was reading about how differently a lot of Japanese daily life is structured, not through big dramatic rituals, but through kaizen, continuous improvement through changes so small they barely register as effort, and soji, maintaining a space and a life through brief, repeated daily attention instead of occasional exhausting fixes. So I picked 12 small habits, based on that philosophy, and gave myself 30 days. Here's exactly what happened with each one. I thought this one was purely about clean floors. It wasn't. The habit itself takes maybe 4 seconds, but here's what I didn't expect. It became a hard boundary between outside and home that I could physically feel. The moment my shoes came off, something in my shoulders actually dropped a little. It turns out shoes carry more than dirt, they carry the posture and pace of wherever you just were, and taking them off at the door interrupted that transfer every single time. The shift, for seconds at the door, and the rest of the house stopped absorbing whatever mood I walked in with. This one felt genuinely too small to matter. One cloth, one wipe, maybe 4 seconds, every time I used the bathroom or kitchen sink. By around day 10, I noticed something I didn't expect. I'd stopped registering the sink at all, not because I'd stopped noticing it, but because there was nothing left there to notice. A damp, spotted sink is a tiny, repeated visual signal of disorder your brain quietly clocks dozens of times a day. Removing that signal removed a background hum I didn't know I'd been carrying. The shift, the smallest habit on this entire list, and the one that made me realize how many tiny unresolved things I'd been unconsciously tracking all day, every day. I was skeptical this was just productivity guru advice repackaged. Here's what actually happened. On the days I made the bed immediately, my first decision of the day was already made and already a win, before I'd even brushed my teeth. On the days I skipped it, I noticed I was more likely to skip other small things too. The whole day had a slightly looser structure, and it started right there, at the very first minute. The shift, the bed itself didn't matter. The first completed task of the day, done before anything could talk me out of it, set the tone for every task that followed. I expected nothing from this. What I got was a genuinely noticeable reduction in that groggy, half-awake fog I used to sit in for the first 20 minutes of every morning. Overnight, you go hours without any fluid at all, and starting the day mildly dehydrated is part of why mornings can feel foggier than they need to. Warm water before coffee gave my body something to actually wake up to, instead of jumping straight to caffeine on an empty, dehydrated system. The shift, 30 seconds before coffee, and the groggy fog I'd blamed on not being a morning person 4 years measurably thinned out. This one exposed a habit I didn't know I had, setting things down temporarily dozens of times a day, then having to pick them up and deal with them a second time later. Mail on the counter. A jacket on a chair. A cup left for a minute. The one-touch rule meant deciding, the instant I touched something, where it actually belonged, and putting it there immediately, not eventually. The shift, I wasn't cleaning less. I was cleaning each thing exactly once instead of twice, and the difference in how much time that saved by day 30 was genuinely bigger than I expected from a rule this simple. Inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8, through pursed lips, 4 rounds. I'd tried breathing exercises before and mostly forgotten about them within a week. What made this stick was using it early, the moment I noticed tension, not 20 minutes into an actual spiral. Caught early, for rounds genuinely reset something physical, not just mental, in under a minute. Caught late, it still helped, just far less dramatically, and I understood for the first time why past attempts at this had felt underwhelming. The shift, the same technique I dismissed before actually worked this time, purely because I started using it earlier in the stress curve instead of waiting until I badly needed it. Here's the one I promised you at the start. Every night, instead of listing tomorrow's tasks, I wrote 3 or 4 things I genuinely didn't do that day, didn't check my phone before getting out of bed, didn't skip lunch, didn't leave dishes in the sink overnight. I expected this to feel like a list of failures. It did the exact opposite. Writing down what you avoided, rather than what you accomplished, does something a standard to-do list doesn't. It makes the invisible, easy-to-overlook wins visible. Most of my daily discipline was showing up as absence, not action, the argument I didn't start, the snack I didn't impulsively grab, the extra hour of scrolling I didn't fall into. None of that shows up on a normal to-do list, because it's defined by nothing happening. Naming those non-events every night turned out to be the single most motivating 3 minutes of my entire day, and by day 15 I was actively looking for things to not do, just so I'd have something to write that night. The shift, the habit I was most sure would do nothing, ended up being the one that changed how I saw my entire day, because most of what I was actually proud of by day 30 had never once shown up on a normal list of accomplishments. I assumed this would just make meals slightly slower. What it actually did was make meals register as real events instead of background activity I did while doing something else. By week 2, I was noticeably less likely to want a snack an hour after eating, because the meal itself had actually been felt and registered, instead of half happening while my attention was somewhere else entirely. The shift, the same food, eaten with full attention instead of split attention, left me satisfied in a way distracted eating never quite managed to. I'd tried nightly cleaning routines before and always let them slide within a week or 2. The difference this time was the 10-minute cap and doing it immediately after dinner, before sitting down anywhere. No deep cleaning allowed, just returning everything to where it started that morning. Every single morning of the 30 days, I woke up to a kitchen and living room that looked exactly like it had the day before, and I genuinely underestimated how much that would affect my mood before I'd even had coffee. The shift, 10 minutes at night, capped hard, meant every morning started from the same clean baseline instead of yesterday's slowly accumulating mess. This felt like the smallest, most boring habit on the entire list. What I noticed was a much steadier afternoon energy level, no sharp 3 p.m. crash, no jittery edge from a second or third coffee I didn't actually need. It wasn't dramatic. It was just quietly, consistently better, every single afternoon, for 30 days straight. The shift, one small swap, repeated daily, added up to an entire month without a single afternoon energy crash, something years of just push through it never managed to fix. This one took the most upfront effort of anything on this list, because it meant actually deciding, once, exactly where every commonly used item belonged. After that upfront decision, though, putting things away stopped being a decision at all, it became a reflex. By the end of the month, where does this go, was a question I never had to consciously ask myself anymore. The shift, one weekend of upfront decisions, removed a decision I'd otherwise have had to make dozens of times a day, every day, for the rest of the month. This is the one I promised you at the very beginning, the habit that explains why the other 11 actually survived 30 days instead of collapsing around day 9, the way every other challenge I've ever attempted has. Here's what I mean. On day 6, I missed the 10-minute reset. On day 14, I skipped the breathing exercise entirely. In any previous attempt at a challenge like this, one missed day usually meant the whole thing quietly fell apart within another day or 2, because the standard I'd set for myself was all or nothing, and missing it once felt like failing the whole month. This time, following the principle of kaizen, small, imperfect, consistent improvement over occasional perfect effort, a missed day was just a missed day. I picked the habits back up the next morning without treating the miss as a reason to quit the whole experiment. That single shift in standard, lowering the bar for what counted as still doing this, is, genuinely, the reason I'm still doing 10 of these 12 habits well past day 30, months later, while every stricter, more intense challenge I've tried before this one didn't survive its first bad week. The shift, the habits themselves weren't the hardest part of any of this. Refusing to let one missed day become an excuse to quit the whole month was. Here's everything, in one breath. Shoes off at the door. Wipe the sink dry, every time. Make the bed in under a minute. Warm water before coffee. Handle things once, not twice. Breathe early, not at the peak of stress. Write down what you didn't do, not just what you did. Eat sitting down, phone away. A 10-minute nightly reset, capped hard. Tea instead of the second coffee. One home for every object. And never let one missed day become permission to quit the whole thing. 12 habits. None of them cost me a single dollar. None of them required more than a few minutes a day. And 30 days later, the biggest change wasn't any one of them individually, it was how normal all 12 had quietly become, without ever once feeling like a challenge I was gritting my teeth through. I didn't need to overhaul my life. I needed 12 small, specific things, done consistently enough that none of them ever had the chance to feel hard. Now you have the exact list I used. So here's what I want from you before you close this video. Pick just one of these 12, not all 12, just one, and try it starting tomorrow morning. Then tell me in the comments which one you picked, and come back in 30 days and tell me what actually changed. Was it obvious immediately, or did it sneak up on you the way Habit 7 did for me? Tell me which number you're starting with in the comments right now, because committing to it publicly is the first step, and someone reading your comment might pick the exact same one because of what you wrote. If this resonated with you, send it to the one person you know who's looking for a big life change and doesn't realize the answer might genuinely be 12 small ones instead. They're 30 days away from finding out. I'll see you in the next one.